The Historic Artifacts Collection at Shawnee Town 1929 forms the core of the educational programs offered by the museum, as well as the objects found in historic building interiors and interpretive stations throughout the site. The museum follows the best practices recommended by the American Alliance of Museums in its acquiring, documenting, tracking, caring for, conserving, storing, and using the artifacts within its collection. When visitors experience the museum, they come into contact with historic artifacts in the museum's exhibits, 1920s period interiors, and the museum's outreach programs. Each artifact has a story to tell, so come with us behind the scenes to learn more about the museum objects at Shawnee Town 1929.
This item is a Lusterware cup and saucer, and it is representative of giftware that was available via catalog in the 1910s and 20s. Lusterware is a type of porcelain that's named after the type of finish where a metallic coating is put on the porcelain before it's fired, and that's what gives it this nice kind of glowing luster look. Luster is a really old finish. It was actually developed in Iraq in the 8th century. It was applied to ceramics of all types and fell in and out of fashion as times and trends changed. By the 1920s, Lusterware was very popular. It was commonly made in England, Germany, and Japan. The Lusterware from Japan was the most common. However, this particular cup and saucer was made in Germany. It was most likely ordered from a mail order catalog, such as the Sears or Montgomery Ward's catalog. Those were widely available and sold all kinds of goods that people could have or wanted to have in their home. The mail order catalog business began after the Civil War, and it was a pretty simple business. A specialty catalog would just have lists of items, and you would go down that list and order what you wanted that way. By the 1890s, the mail order catalog business had changed, and most catalogs were hundreds of pages long and had detailed illustrations that went along with each item in the catalog, so you could really get a good idea of what it is that you were going to be ordering. The mail order business was really at its peak in the 19-teens, and by the 1920s, it was a little bit on the decline. Folks in rural areas, due to rural free delivery and parcel post, continued to order things via catalog, and so this item easily could have been delivered to a farm anywhere in the country. As the catalog started to fall out of fashion, brick and mortar stores opened, and so the Sears and Montgomery Wards that many of you remember in the mall grew out of that tradition. We still mail order shop today, we just do it a little bit differently. Our catalogs are frequently now online, and we shop from stores like Amazon.com, which were like the Sears or Montgomery Wards in the 1920s, where you can get just about anything. This is a Rojo gardener that was donated to Shawnee Town by the Schrager family in honor of Henry Hagedorn. Henry Hagedorn was Alvin Hagedorn's son, and Alvin moved to Shawnee in the 1930s, where he used this tool in his home garden at 57th and Halsey. This item is important to Shawnee Town because it's from our period of interpretation, and it was used right here in Shawnee. With this item's history and this item's tie to our community, this particular item is one that we will exhibit in different ways. It's not a hands-on item. This item is in very good condition. You can see that it still retains quite a bit of its original paint. Its parts are in good working order, and you can see that even the wood handle is nice and smooth. It was manufactured by the Rowe Manufacturing Company in Galesburg, Illinois. The Rowe Manufacturing Company was started in 1908, and they produced a large number of items that were useful to farms and households. They made ladders, gates, iceless refrigerators, specialty doors, and gardeners such as this one. The way that it works is you put it in your garden, and these 5 blades cultivate the soil while the front blades kind of churn stuff up. If you reverse this, it also works as a weeder to help keep the weeds out of your garden as well. Gardeners like this were extremely popular in the 19th and 20th centuries. In fact, we still see people using them and their modern equivalents today. You may find one in your garden shed if you go out and take a look. This document is a map of the property that was owned by the Hart family that was located at present-day 75th and Quivira. This map shows the property as it was divided for sale in 1926. Joseph and Wilhanna Hart moved to the Shawnee Township with their 2 daughters, Julia and Jenny, in 1878. At that time, they built a white clapboard farmhouse at what's present-day 75th and Quivira, and they lived on that farm for quite a few years. They were not subsistence farmers. The Harts were relatively well off, and they were farming more for the pleasure of it. They kept bees, they grew grapes, and they also raised turkeys on their farm. In 1926, the Harts decided to downsize their property and move to a house in town. At that time, they sold the property in two distinct chunks. The first and largest portion of the property was sold to William Gastel. The smaller portion of the property, the 19-acre portion, was sold to Victor DeCaney and his wife Irma. They bought the portion that contained that 1878 white clapboard farmhouse. The property also came with a garage, a chicken coop, a tool shed, and assorted other outbuildings. The DeCaneys were Belgian, and they had purchased the property so they could operate a truck farm, which was a common industry in Shawnee at that time. They grew fruits and vegetables that they trucked to the Kansas City River Market and sold wholesale to be shipped via rail all over the country. The DeCaneys acquired the property, and it was missing one key building that you need for a truck farm. It lacked a market shed. So shortly after they acquired the property, they built that building. That is where all the vegetables are processed for sale. They're washed, they're bundled, they're packaged, and it's from there that they leave and go down to the market. Truck farming is a labor-intensive practice. It definitely is something that involves the whole family. In order for a truck farm to be successful, everyone has a role. Children would work in the field before and after school. The wives and mothers would also participate working in the field, preparing the produce for sale and between their household chores. Truck farming is also a cash business. It was not a business that was subsistence farming. These were folks that were growing fruits and vegetables on a large scale, and they were preparing those vegetables, selling them for cash, and using that cash to buy the other things that they needed. They were buying feed for their livestock. They were purchasing trucks and cars for getting around town, and in addition, they were buying store-bought clothes for church and school and nice things for their homes. Here at Shawnee Town, the farmhouse that was located on this property is the cornerstone of our 1929 interpretation. Visitors can come out today and see the farmhouse furnished as it was when Victor and Irma DeCaney lived there in the late 1920s.
We hope you've enjoyed this brief look behind the scenes. For more information about Shawnee Town 1929 and its collections, programs, and educational opportunities, please visit shawneetown.org.